Hello, I am Mardi Gras woman. My superpower is to throw beads and to fight crime during Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Or am I simply mild-mannered Ann Babson, English instructor for Southeastern Louisiana University? You're probably familiar with the notion of superheroes having origin stories. Batman is Bruce Wayne, and he becomes Batman because his parents are killed. Superman comes from the planet Krypton and is otherwise mild-mannered Clark Kent. And this assignment is not about superheroes, it's about you. It's about all of us understanding in this country that our people, whoever they are, really haven't been in the same place forever. Haven't been part of the same culture forever. We are, with the exception of the first Americans, Native Americans, immigrants or the descendants of immigrants. And what I'm asking you to do in this personal essay is to consider your own origin story. Let me show you how I might approach such an origin story about myself. This is part of my actual origin story. I know this will shock you, but I am not actually Mardi Gras woman. That was the point I was making. This woman came to America in the 1840s. Her name was, at least how we knew her name, was Angèle Jean. She called herself that when she arrived in the port of San Francisco with her maid, as basically someone not much older than you, at an era where women were not supposed to travel around unchaperoned, much less halfway around the world unchaperoned, and her maid was barely a chaperone. What was she running away from? My family did some research, and we have trouble figuring out who she might have really belonged to because there is no one with that last name from the town that she claimed to come from. She seemed to have secret letters with people when she was in San Francisco. She had the fortune to marry a man whose wealth was growing, an older man who may have been kind of a grumpy guy, my great-great-grandfather. She seemed to have these secrets on the side, and she was a very religious person. You have her prayer book. She went to church a lot. What does this say about her, and what does this say about me? I noticed she has secrets. I know she had to really invent herself. Was she running away from a dangerous marriage? Women couldn't get a divorce in France if they were being beaten by their husbands or their lives were being threatened. Was she maybe a very, very naughty woman for the 1800s? I honestly don't know. What she did was she traveled very bravely, and she was a very bold woman. Her daughter-in-law survived the San Francisco earthquake a generation later. She had to get all of her children to cling to her skirts as they walked slowly out of the city with all the possessions they could carry while a fire blazed behind them. What would I be able to tell about myself by looking at that woman and the other woman that I just mentioned? I might notice that I'm brave and adventurous, and that maybe I can trace that from the people that I come from. I might notice that I have an affinity for French culture that I might not otherwise have. That I've always liked people who invent themselves. That I have a love of people who take risks. I like risk takers. And I might put all of that in an essay to explain a connection between the legends of my family's past and the evidence we have of where we come from. And also, I might be able to say what that has made me, kind of a self-invented risk taker. A woman who would make a video pretending to be Mardi Gras woman for her students. So what I would like to ask you to do for this essay is to contemplate your own family's story as much as you can know, and perhaps the not knowing is part of the essay if you don't know. Because each of you came from somewhere. Each of you owes a debt to some ancestor, known or unknown. Each of us inherited something from someone before us. And all of us, as I said before at the beginning of this video, came from another place. So again, I ask you, what is your origin story? I'm going to ask you to write a 4-page essay on that. You don't need to put on a mask or throw beads, but you do need to think about where you come from.